The AAC Report is brought to you by Blake Blahut of Realty One Group. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, call Blake Blahut anytime at 407-748-0484. Welcome to the AAC Report only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for hitting that play button. Coming up, we will continue our team-by-team reports. Brian Fox from BearcatSportsRadio.com will be here to talk about Cincinnati, and Frank Murtaugh from the Memphis Flyer and Memphis Magazine will join us to talk about the Tigers. But before we get to them, Wichita State remains undefeated in conference play at 3-0 with two nice wins over the last week, beating Memphis at home on Thursday 76-67, and a double overtime win on Sunday on the road at UConn 89-86. The Shockers now ranked number 16 in this week's poll and 15-1 overall for the season. Cincinnati a half game back at 3-1 after their win over UCF on Saturday. Four teams at 2-1, including 22nd ranked Memphis, Houston, SMU, and a couple of early surprises in Tulsa and ECU. As we continue our team-by-team looks at men's basketball in the American, it is our pleasure now to welcome Brian Fox from BearcatSportsRadio.com on to the show. Brian, going to talk about the Bearcats. How are you doing this evening, Brian?
I'm terrific. Thanks for asking, and thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Always a pleasure. So let's talk about the Bearcats and basically a new era. Mick Cronin left after several successful seasons to take the UCLA job, and John Brannen steps in. He, of course, had coached at Northern Kentucky just down the road and also had some nice success there, getting the Norse to the tournament a few times. So how is that transition going in your estimation?
You know, it's I would say it's going a little rocky. The transition has been, I think, a little bit more difficult than most of the fan base imagined it would be, especially in light of Jaron Cumberland's return and the addition of Javen Cumberland. I think folks expected to be somewhere a little bit better off than 10-6. And so I think that there are flashes. There are moments where it is evident that John Brannon's system is being absorbed and applied and executed in the flow of the game, like against a bright mark, of course, against 21st ranked Tennessee in mid-December. That was a great game. Bearcats really came out and handled business. And then there are also those times where everything seems to fall short, like the game against Colgate, the preceding game, where we lost at home. So, it's almost a hit or miss from game to game. I will say the last two games, first against Tulsa and then against UCF, it did feel like we finally started to put pieces together and close out games in the second half.
And can you talk a little bit about the contrast in style? We know Mick Cronin teams were basically, it's almost like, putting guys into a phone booth and battling it out.
Sure.
How would you describe John Brannon's style?
Well, the rock fight is the old metaphor used to describe Mick Cronin's pace of play. It's a slower pace of play, defensive-minded pace of play. I would say that John Brannon is a system guy. There are guardrails, there are systems, or there is a system, and off of that system, the players, as they gain more comfort and more understanding, they understand that there are opportunities to improvise within that system. And so I think the Brannon system ideally is more free-flowing. It's less owner dependent, if that makes any sense. If you want, to use a bit of hyperbole, under the Mick Cronin system, the players almost had to look to the bench for confirmation on whether they could dribble with each dribble. Whereas the Brannon system is much more hands-off, and it's evident that he expects the players to know and understand the system and to deploy it. And so at times that has it's made things interesting, to say the least, on the court, because especially when it gets down to clutch times, the older guys, the more experienced guys, are accustomed to a brand of coaching that is very invested in every possession and a coaching style that provides direction. Whereas John Brannon is more hands-off, even in those more critical moments. And so players have to play with a greater understanding of, what the situation of the game. And I think that's an adjustment. And I think it's an adjustment that that may prove ultimately healthy and helpful for the program. But time will really tell. I would say the jury's still out, because Mick Cronin was a high floor, and the perception was low ceiling kind of coach. We knew we were going to always compete to win the American Athletic Conference with Mick Cronin. We knew guys were always going to play tough. We knew that, especially as things got more progressively stable, that we were going to beat teams that we should beat. But then the criticism was, in the NCAA tournament, who knows what you're going to get, and you're likely to lose early in the tournament because the offensive capacity or the offensive wherewithal was always somewhat limited by the defensive approach, and dribbling the shot clock off and requiring fewer possessions. I would say that I thought Mick Cronin was a high floor, question mark ceiling. The decision to hire John Brannon, however, was he had some success at NKU, and the belief was, if he can put together a high flying, system based, fast paced, high scoring offense, that there would be no ceiling in the NCAA tournament. And so, that's all taken. I say the jury is out because, we're 10-6, we're 3-1 in the conference, and we're doing well. But when you return a preseason, USA Today All-American, the expectations are somewhat high.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned, of course, you get the reigning Player of the Year in the American, Jerron Cullenberlin, back. He certainly, how is he adjusting? It looks like he is actually more of a distributor than he has been in the past.
Yeah, Jerron is playing point more under the Brannon system, and he is distributing more. It's hard to evaluate where he is. I mean, he's still averaging 13 points a game. But early in the season, he was really struggling because he was dealing with an injury. And then on top of that injury prevented him from spending a whole lot of time in the offseason getting accustomed to the system. So he was both learning the system and dealing with, his injuries, or his injury. He had an injured toe. And so the toe injury flared up again recently against UCF, but he battled through it. And I guess I would say it's hard to evaluate where he is at this point. But we're 16 games into the season, almost halfway, and things are going to get very, very interesting down the stretch. We've got a difficult game at Memphis coming up on Thursday, and that will really test our wherewithal against a Memphis team that is obviously playing pretty well. They're 13-3, and they've played some great competition. They're ranked 22nd in the country, so that game will test our mettle on the road. We are the season has been a tale of two teams. The two teams are we have a first half team that struggles, which I guess if you're thinking about implementing a new offensive system, that's somewhat to be expected. And then we're a tale of two different teams at home and away. At home, we're very strong, and on the road we have struggled. We've looked kind of rough, and so a road game at Memphis is going to be it's going to be challenging. And if we slip to 10-7, 3-2 in the conference, we will see what kind of spirit and strength of will this team has to battle through to try to win as many as possible so that we get a good look for the NCAA tournament. And then if things continue to progress in a bad way, or at least in a mediocre way, we want to look at that conference tournament as a must-win in order to get to the NCAA. We've been on a streak under Mick Cronin where we make the tournament every year. And so that could be, in jeopardy if we play mediocre down the stretch.
Well, the American is proving to be quite a dogfight so far in the conference this year. We've had a lot of interesting results. And, Cincinnati's only loss is to what looks now to be a much improved Tulane team. And you look at the fact that the American was a 4-bid league for the tournament last year, so that definitely could be another case where that might take place again this year. I think the other thing, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like when the Bearcats are having success, they are doing so when they are hitting the offensive boards.
Yes, yeah. There is a direct correlation between our crashing of the offensive boards and winning games. So, and we have a very talented rebounder in Trevon Scott. Trevon Scott is he's a force, and he's averaging 9 rebounds a game, and he's so steady and reliable. You can just count on him for 8 to 9 points a game and 9 to 10 rebounds a game. On the offensive glass, Chris Vogt is someone who transferred in to UC. So this is his first year with the program, and he's a junior transfer. And Chris is someone that most people in the fan base were very concerned about because there was a question of, hey, this was a Horizon League recruit. Is he going to be able to play at our level? And what's been interesting is he's leading the team in points. Is that because he understands the system? And so, of course, within the system, he's able to thrive and he's accustomed to it, possibly. It's also, he's put a lot of weight on. Michael Riffel is our weight training guy with the team, and he packed a ton of weight on him. And so I think he's made just leaps and gains from that alone, that ability to bang around a little bit better with the extra weight that he's carrying around. And so, he's leading all of our scorers. But, as his rebounding improves, the team, I think, will be in an even better position. I mean, he's 7'1", so, rebounding is equal parts effort and technique. And you look at a guy like, Trey Scott, he's a force, and he's a 6'8" guy, but a lot of it is just positioning and want to. I think as Chris gets tougher on the glass, we could very much improve.
All right, I'm asking everybody that comes on the program to give a full thought on the conference. As you stated, a big matchup with UC and Memphis taking place on Thursday. Other teams in the conference that you like, who do you think comes away with it? I mean, you could look at Houston, you could look at Wichita State, Memphis, Cincinnati can certainly be in the mix if they stay on their present course.
Yeah, I think Wichita State, they're very, very well coached, and they have some continuity within their program. So, and they're just playing really well, and not just playing, not just in stretches. They appear to have put together, just a really good season. So, I think they should contend. Memphis, of course, has. It's easy to focus on James Wiseman's absence or departure, or however you want to characterize it. But good grief, their recruiting class was in top 5, and that you pull him out, they still have a bunch of 5-stars. So they are extremely talented. They have a lot of potential, and it's something new for our conference to deal with. But I look for them to peak during the American Athletic Conference Championship because, if you watch how the Kentucky teams have progressed over the years when they roll out a new starting five every year, you can see that they start to gel around that time. And that's when those high talented guys get used to playing with each other. And I would put Memphis and Wichita State right up there as two that in my view are really going to contend.
All right, Brian, and let the folks know where they can follow you to get full coverage of Bearcat sports.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Bearcats Radio. At Bearcats Radio is my handle, and then you can head over to our website, bearcatsportsradio.com, or we have Facebook and Instagram pages as well.
All right, Brian, we do appreciate your time, and again, good luck to the Bearcats the rest of the way. We thank you for your time this evening.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Coming up next, we talk to Frank Murtaugh about the Memphis Tigers when the AAC Report continues in just a moment. Are you tired of the endless money pit of paying rent? Do you have a home you need to sell for top dollar? Talk to the Hometown Advantage award-winning real estate professional and fellow UCF Knight, Blake Blahut of Realty One Group. Blake has proven to produce results and a smooth process for his clients all across Central Florida. Whether you're looking to buy your very first home or looking to downsize or upgrade, talk to Blake Blahut. Visit him at his website, Blake'sOrlandoHomes.com, or contact him anytime at 407-748-0484. Again, Blake'sOrlandoHomes.com and 407-748-0484. Get the hometown advantage by working with Blake.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music, you choose the lighting, and you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
And time now to take a look at the Memphis Tigers as we continue our look around the American for men's basketball. Frank Murtaugh is joining us now. He is with Memphis Magazine, the managing editor, and also does sports for the Memphis Flyer. Frank, thanks again for being here.
I appreciate it, Jeff.
So,
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. But before we hit the hardwood, let's get a closing thought on what was a great football season for the Memphis Tigers, culminating in a New Year's Six Bowl. Now that you've had a little time to reflect on the season as a whole, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would just say this, Jeff. The Memphis Tigers played in the Cotton Bowl. The very fact that I can say that in the past tense, that the University of Memphis football program played in the Cotton Bowl, one of the the four oldest, most prestigious bowls in this grand sport, says it all. A truly remarkable season, one in which the program said farewell to a remarkable coach, Mike Norvell, who's now calling the shots at Florida State, and transition into what's going to be the Ryan Silverfield era. Lots to look forward to next season. Brady White, a PhD candidate, I would emphasize, is returning for his sixth and final year of eligibility, and he's got Kenneth Gainwell coming back as a tailback. DeMonte Coxey is top target downfield. The Memphis Tigers are here, Jeff, and I think they're going to be a story, at least in the AAC, if not nationally, for the foreseeable future. And again, the fact that I can say they played in the Cotton Bowl, regardless of the results, that's new verbiage in the Mid-South, let me tell you.
Definitely, those are great words to have roll off the tongue, no doubt. So, as we turn to the basketball season, it was an interesting start to the season for the Tigers, and I know it's old news with the James Wiseman story, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on one, how big an impact has it been with him not being with the program, and two, based on how that whole thing played out, do you think that both the NCAA and the team itself really kind of did a disservice?
Yeah. The sad truth, Jeff, is that James Wiseman is going to be the story of the 2019-20 Memphis Tigers unless they do something magnificent and go to the Final Four, win the national championship. And either of those scenarios is unlikely. Wiseman is that talented a player. He still may be the top NBA draft pick in June. So for him to be part of the plans, centering the top recruiting class in the country, then to have that what felt to followers of the program and fans of the program like a sudden suspension from the NCAA. And then, the optimism that he'd be just temporarily suspended and come back. And then finally, his decision to leave the program, that whipsawing of fortunes with one player, one extraordinarily talented player, is going to, be part of the narrative the rest of this season. If you happen to watch the broadcast of the Tigers game with USF over the weekend, Dick Vitale could not stay away from the subject. I mean, it was a reasonably good basketball game. But Vitale was talking about Wiseman and how different Tigers would be and how better off Wiseman would be had he stayed in college. All that rambling is to say, the Tigers are now at the midpoint of their regular season, 15 games left, and they've got to try and define themselves absent Wiseman, and that's just it's a hard thing to do. It looked like they had done it with a 10-game winning streak, which is something Penny never experienced as a player, by the way. But a 10-game winning streak is nothing to sneeze at. But then they stubbed their toe against Georgia, then lost to Wichita State, dropped precipitously in the AP rankings, and now have to try and find a true identity. And that's a strange thing to say. Here we are in mid-January. Usually that's established by the time conference player arrives, and frankly the Tigers are still searching for it.
Yeah, but I would also say this. Now, the rest of the American is not feeling too sorry for Penny Hardaway and the Tigers because of the great talent that they have on that roster, led by Precious Achiuwa, who's really has now stepped up to be kind of the central figure.
Absolutely, and Precious is a dynamite player. He's averaging a double-double, 15 points, 10 rebounds. He blocks shots. He's an athletic, high energy, again, another lottery pick that Penny has at his disposal. It's the supporting cast, Jeff, I think, that is trying to find traction, and a few of them have. A couple of sophomores, actually, Alex Lomax and Tyler Harris, are filling their roles, and I think Lomax above and beyond what people anticipated as a playmaker. He's at the top of the league right now in assists. You have some variables in Lester Quinones and DJ Jeffries, another couple of freshmen who have looked like, borderline stars at times this season, and at others have almost disappeared. DJ's been ill the last, week to 10 days, so that has something to do with his, his soft performance against USF. But, how those other guys fill the roles and fill the void, frankly, that left by Wiseman, it's a big void, is going to determine where these Tigers are playing in March and how long they're playing in March.
Well, we definitely know that the American, there does not appear to be any easy games on the schedule. As you mentioned, had a tough one at South Florida. Losing to Wichita State, certainly no shame in that because the Shockers are having a great year. But then you look at the schedule upcoming. Cincinnati is going to be a tough one on Thursday. Tulsa looks to be a bit of an improved team. Just about any given night, it looks like it's going to be tough for teams just to run away and win games easily.
Yeah, I think the league's really interesting this year, Jeff. I can't see more than 3 teams max getting an NCAA tournament bid from this league, and it's probably going to be 2. So, you look up at the top of the league with Wichita State and Memphis and Cincinnati, SMU and Houston, I guess, would be the top 5. Who among those teams are going to pull away and distance themselves? But the fact is, the drop off into the second half of the league, as we saw Sunday, you just said with USF, is not that precipitous. And you're going to, the Tigers have the most talented team in the league, and the fact is, there's no gimme left on their schedule. The Tigers have to treat every game like they need to bring their best. And in their case, they've got. Look at the schedule right in front of me. 4 of their last 5 games are Houston, at SMU, Wichita State back here in Memphis, and then at Houston. That's going to be a steep hill to climb right there as February turns to March, and that could make or break. They're standing for an at-large bid in the tournament. You want to get to the 23 to 25 win mark total, and be in contention in your conference tournament. There are several teams in the American right now that can claim to be jockeying for that position.
And Penny Hardaway now in his second season as the coach. What have you seen from year one to year two?
Penny is he's not emphasizing speed as much as he did his first year, and of late, what he's been stressing is more of a share culture, a sharing culture. Right? That one staggering stat the Tigers have is they're near the top of the league in all kinds of categories: scoring defense, field goal percentage defense. But they have 275 turnovers to just 239 assists. They're not sharing the ball the way Hardaway. Number one, the way Hardaway played as a player. Anyone who remembers, the dynamic passer he was. But number two, they aren't sharing the way he's trying to preach to them from the sideline now as their coach. In practice sessions, if the Tigers can get to where they're avoiding the one-on-one challenge, as Penny called it in a recent press conference, and trying to come up with the 2-on-1 or the 3-on-2 fine man advantages by distributing the ball, that'll make the difference. So I think Penny has, he still wants to run. The Tigers aren't going to be a slow it down, 15 passes before you shoot team ever. But he's trying to emphasize that they share and that they find the open teammate, and the guy who has the best shot is the guy who should shoot. I'm getting tongue-tied here, but it's not that there's a star they need to find. It's best shot's the open shot.
Yeah. So we have talked a little bit about the league in general. Do you think Memphis can take it down the stretch and win the regular season title? And, obviously other teams in the American that we talked about that are in contention, among others being Houston and Wichita State. Who else do you like?
Yeah, I was really impressed with Wichita State. As anyone who watched, the Tigers lose out there, it's a tough building to play in. So the Shockers right now, have the inside track, but they've got to play 9 road games in the league, and as I mentioned, Jeff, and they're going to lose some of those games. There's no team that's going to go, 17-1, 16-2 in this league, I don't believe. The coaches picked Houston at the beginning of the season, which kind of roiled. I think they picked Houston to tie Memphis for the league title, and that roiled Penny a little bit. The Tigers could take this, and honestly, I think they will find their way. I think they're going to find some traction. Penny started 3 new players against the Bulls Sunday, and I think the Tigers will win the regular season title. But it's going to be close. It's going to come down to maybe that March 5th game with Wichita State here in Memphis. You look at Cincinnati, SMU. These teams are still in the mix, though. It's going to be a fun league to follow.
No question about it. And Frank, can you give folks out there a reminder on where they can follow you for coverage of the Memphis Tigers?
Sure, yeah. Go to MemphisFlyer.com, please. I have at least 1, maybe 2 Tiger-related columns every week, and I'm on Twitter, at my name, Frank Murtaugh, and I'd love to be your friend there too.
All right.
All season.
Sounds good. Frank Murtaugh, with managing editor of Memphis Magazine, and also with the Memphis Flyer. We thank you again so much for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Always fun to be with you.
Time now to take a look at our Player of the Week honors. First up, Jaden Gardner, the sophomore forward from ECU. Yeah, let me try that again. Jaden Gardner, sophomore forward, ECU. He averaged 21.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, and a pair of wins for the Pirates last week. Posted his 8th double-double of the season, 23 points and 10 rebounds against USF, and recorded his 8th consecutive 20-point game in having 20 in a come-from-behind win over SMU. The freshman of the week, Precious Achiuwa of Memphis, repeating again for consecutive weeks, a pair of double-doubles in the Tigers' 1-1 week. 5 consecutive double-doubles after having 22 points and 12 rebounds at Wichita State before adding 22 and 11 in the come-from-behind win at USF. In women's hoops, the big news last week was UConn's 98-game home winning streak coming to an end, losing to the Baylor Bears 74-58. It was the second consecutive year that the Lady Bears ended a long Connecticut run. Last season, Baylor stopped the Huskies' 126-game regular season winning streak. UConn fell 1 victory short of tying its own NCAA record of 99 in a row at home. The Huskies previous loss at home came in the Big East Final against Notre Dame on March 12th, 2013. But still all is well with UConn in the standings, 5-0, leading the conference. Tulane in second at 3-0, South Florida in third at 2-0. And then following out the top five, Temple 3-1 in fourth place currently, and Cincinnati at 2-1 in fifth place as of the recording of this podcast early Wednesday evening. The Player of the Week honors in women's hoops go to Imarl Thomas of Cincinnati. Had a record-setting week of back-to-back conference wins, averaging 27.5 points, 11 rebounds, and 3.5 assists per game, while shooting 80% from the field. And the freshman of the week, Kristina Brabnikova, freshman guard from South Florida, was key in their win against Tulsa on Sunday, scoring a career-high 17 points in 33 minutes. Went 6 of 9 from the field with a pair of three-pointers and 3 of 3 from the charity stripe, snagging 5 rebounds. And a couple of notes from football in the final AP Top 25 football poll of the just concluded season. The AAC placed 4 teams: Memphis at number 17, Navy at 20, Cincinnati at 21, and UCF making it in at number 24. Memphis running back Kenneth Gainwell, who led all freshmen nationally in rushing yards in his rookie season, was named as the 2019 FWAA Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year, presented by Stand Together. The announcement made at the annual Football Writers Association of America Awards breakfast in advance of Monday night's college football playoff national championship. He was one of 3 American Athletic Conference players chosen to the 2019 Freshman All-American team by the FWAA. Gainwell joined ECU wide receiver C.J. Johnson and Cincinnati defensive back Ahmad Gardner as freshman All-America selections. And finally, Houston quarterback Derek King, who redshirted during the season and initially said he would return to the Cougs next season, has now entered the transfer portal. As always, I invite you to join me on Twitter. Follow me at JeffAllen_88. Be happy to follow you back. And as always, so happy to be a part of the Knightline Sports Network with this program. And, of course, our other great shows with the Sons of UCF, Adam and Mike, and our flagship show, Knightline, with Andrew and Trace. So keep refreshing that feed to get all the great content that we have here for you. And that'll do it for this week's edition of the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.